So, quick update about the book. Yeah, it's going well. This is working. Last week I did make a much shorter video, and that did give me a lot more time to write, as was the idea. And that has made it possible for me to finish the first draft. So now I just have to go back and make it look like I actually knew what I was doing. Anyway, let's get on with it. Hello there, I'm Simon, welcome to my channel. I just set a timer for 8 minutes, so let's do this. Today's topic is JavaScript, which is a programming language used to make HTML pages dynamic. Make them actually do stuff when you click buttons. It is one of the pillars of programming, so obviously I've been learning it. Me being a nerd, that often results in me writing some code that is absolutely pointless, but extremely nerdy and a lot of fun. Today I want to look at the Fibonacci Code. If you don't know, the Fibonacci Sequence is a sequence, obviously, invented by someone called Leonardo Fibonacci around the turn of the 13th century. And the idea of the Fibonacci sequence is that you start with two numbers, usually 0 and 1. Every next number is the sum of the previous two. So it makes for a great programming exercise. So obviously we've had it as an assignment more than once. And me being me, I often try to make it a bit more interesting, right? And this is the result. So today I want to go through this bit of code and see what it does, because I think it's pretty cool. So the first bit you see is a comment, a very long comment. This is just a bit of an explanation as to what the code actually does and why I made it and how you're supposed to use it. Then we are defining a couple of variables. First, I'm going to ask the user for the seeds, the two numbers that are going to be the first two numbers of the sequence. So we ask a first number, a second number, and then the amount. The amount is just how long we're going to keep going. So if you say the amount is 10, we're going to give the 10 first numbers of the sequence. We ask the input by defining the variable as a function. The parameter is just a text that appears that says, hey, give us the first number. Like, it tells the user what this input is going to be used for. So this is a function that has the statement as its only parameter, and it returns the input. It first declares the input variable to be a number, which is going to be the prompt. Really? I'm already out of time apparently. So very quickly, we define the input as set statement, as set prompt, and then we're gonna start a while loop, which is gonna keep going as long as the input is not a number, because we want it to be a number. And then finally it's gonna return the input. So then we have the first number, the second number, and the amount, and we verified that it's actually a number. Then I'm gonna ask for another bit of input, which is gonna be a string this time. It's gonna ask, would you like it in binary? Because of course I had to put that in. So this will keep going as long as it's not y or n, because we want it to be one of them. Finally, I declare total, which is just the sum of the first and the second number. Then I start the actual logging, and I'm gonna write 1, which is just the place in the sequence, and then the first number ran through the binarizator. And then I'm gonna do the same with the second number. And then I'm gonna start the actual sequence, which is gonna be a for loop, which means I'm gonna define a variable, counter, which is gonna start as 3, because I've already done the first two. It's gonna keep going as long as the counter is smaller or equal to the amount. And each time it's gonna up the counter with 1. And for each counter, I'm gonna define sum to be the sum of the first and the second number. And then I'm gonna console log the value of counter and then the value of sum run through the binarizator. Then I'm gonna add the sum, so the number I just wrote down, to the total. Then I'm going to redefine the first as the second and the second as the sum, which means that for the next iteration I can just run the same code again, only shifted over a place, right? And it's gonna keep doing that until we get to the amount. After the sequence is done, I'm gonna write another console log, which is gonna be total and then the total. Also run through the binarizator. The binarizator is a function with the parameter of decimal. So that's the decimal value of whatever we want to binarizate. So first I'm gonna ask, is binary even a yes? If it is yes, I'm gonna define a remainder as 0 and a result as an empty string. I define input to be decimal. Then I'm gonna do a while loop and I'm gonna keep going as long as input is more than 0. And as long as that's the case, I'm going to run the code remainder to be the input divided by 2, but actually the remainder of that, because that's gonna tell us, do we want the 1 in there? I did add in a math floor, which just floors it. It rounds down the number, and that will make sure that it's either a 1 or a 0. That is gonna be our first bit. Then I'm gonna redefine input to be the actual division of input divided by 2. And I'm gonna floor that as well to make sure I get rid of the remainder. And then result, which is a string, is gonna be the remainder we just got plus the result. And of course, remainder is a decimal, result is a string. What JavaScript does then is it concatenates it. Also, by putting remainder in front of result here, we make sure that new bits always appear in front of what we already have, because that's how binary works. And eventually it will return the result. That's if it's yes. If it's not yes, it's just gonna skip all of that and just return the decimal again. I'll put some results of what you can get from this. I think is super cool. And eventually the goal will be to implement this and some of the other toys I made into like a web application or a website, which I know I can do. I just need to get the time to actually do it. So I am way over time. Let's do the YouTube thing. You know the drill. Here's the end screen. If you don't know what to comment, how's it working for you? How would you do this? If you are working with codes, how would you write a code like this? Do you have other ideas for nerdy coding toys? So, thanks for watching.